A lively group of enthusiastic supporters bursts onto the scene, brandishing colorful plaque cards high in the air. One card boldly proclaims hope of the Republic of Korea, Lee Suho, while another proudly declares him the proud mayor of Hyeomyong. A third card crowns him as the guardian of new politics. Nearby, a well-dressed audience sits in ornate chairs, all outfitted in matching black and white corporate attire that screams sophistication but may have them looking like they just walked off a runway. Despite the cool weather at the end of February, the atmosphere is charged with excitement, and the chill in the air doesn't seem to hinder anyone's spirits. On stage, a sharply dressed man stands confidently before a crowd, with a massive screen behind him announcing the inauguration ceremony of the Hyeomyong Educational Autonomous District. The camera zooms in as someone from the crowd exclaims "Wow," because clearly, everyone is just as impressed as he is. The Republic of Korea is abuzz with news about the establishment of this new administrative district, and it feels like New Year's Eve, just without the fireworks, but definitely with a lot more suits. With a smirk that seems to suggest he knows he's the star of the show, the man speaks into the microphone, emphasizing how honored he feels to celebrate this milestone alongside the citizens of Hyeomyong City. He reminisces about the time when this area was nothing but barren land, tickling the crowd's imagination. He passionately shares that on this very land, universities will soon emerge like coffee shops in Seoul, everywhere you look. He dramatically announces that on March 2nd, a whopping 50,000 students will flock to this place to contribute to the remarkable advancement of science and technology in the Republic of Korea. It's a bold declaration, and with each confident statement from the mayor, applause erupts from the crowd, laughter mingling with clapping as they cheer him on. It's impossible not to notice how the mayor's charisma and charm draw public attention that rivals even that of the president. As if on cue, the narrator reveals herself. She is none other than Lee Suho's wife, a captivating woman with ashy brown hair and bright brown eyes. As she watches her husband on stage, she can't help but feel a rush of pride and happiness. With a slight blush spreading across her cheeks, she claps enthusiastically along with the crowd, feeling like she's in the presence of a celebrity, because, in her eyes, he absolutely is. Intrigued faces surround her, reflecting admiration and a touch of awe. She wonders briefly if she should sign a few autographs herself, just for fun. After all, who wouldn't want the autograph of the wife of the future leader of the nation? It seems this new chapter in Hyeomyong is not only about education and progress, but also about the enthusiasm of a community eager to support a visionary leader and, perhaps, the upcoming First Lady who can keep her husband grounded in the whirlwind of politics. As her husband speaks with passion and confidence, she knows they are ready to embark on this journey together, hand in hand, with laughter, love, and dreams that know no bounds. The distant sounds of clapping and cheering echo in her ears as she contemplates the challenges and triumphs that lie ahead. Every speech he gives is not just a moment in time, it is a building block for a future that she hopes will be bright and prosperous for the citizens of Hyeomyong. She feels an overwhelming sense of gratitude for all the sacrifices made to reach this moment and an eagerness to contribute to the society they are about to shape together. Imagining the university students who will soon call this place home, she envisions a vibrant community filled with innovation and potential. The spirit of Hyeomyong is alive at this event, and she can almost taste the promise of a better tomorrow, where education fuels dreams, and those dreams turn into reality. Each smile in the crowd reflects a shared hope for the future, and as Lee Suho continues to speak, articulating a vision that inspires confidence and determination, she knows that this is just the beginning of a remarkable journey not only for him, but for everyone present. In that moment, she feels a profound connection to her husband and to the people gathered, reminding her that they are all in this together, striving for a shared destiny that will solidify Hyeomyong as a beacon of progress in the Republic of Korea. As the ceremony unfolds, she savors this collective energy, firmly believing that together they will weave a tapestry of success, unity, and resilience that will echo for generations to come. Following the success of Sojung City, known as the administrative capital, the government establishes Hyeomyong City as the educational capital. Within this city, a research center equipped with state-of-the-art facilities will be created. National universities in science and engineering have relocated around this area. This one city is basically a citadel of knowledge. Lee Suho is a key figure in the establishment of Hyeomyong City as he continues to speak about how the quality of education in the Republic of Korea has skyrocketed, along with human rights and the rights of students. Young adults whisper among themselves in the seats, and the narrator wonders why something feels off. Lee announces that the launch of the Educational Innovation City will be the first step toward a better Republic of Korea, yet everyone suddenly looks at their phones. Is something happening? Our girl breaks a sweat and turns red as she checks her phone. Her husband's name is trending, and a headline reads, "Is Lee Suho's marriage a show?" Another bar says, attempting image-making through marriage, Lee Suho is a show window couple. A journalist named Jong Tae-ji from Dongshin Daily raises his ID card, revealing that there are reports claiming the mayor is pretending to be a fake couple with a secretary from a middle-class family to enhance his commoner image. Is that true? Another man in a suit with brown hair shouts for everyone to step back, declaring this nonsense outrageous. The event announcing the launch of the Educational Autonomous City, a key project of the new government, turns chaotic as our girl tugs on her husband's sleeve. He breaks a sweat, his expression tense. Amidst the anger, shouts, and fights, reporters yell at Lee, one asking if he isn't speaking properly. Confused murmurs fill the air as Lee remains speechless, and then the crowd erupts into chaos. Our girl has a flashback, remembering how she first met her husband 6 years ago at Dangun University Graduate School. A young Lee is reading a paper, and the moment she sees him, she thinks, Sojung, is it? A white box pops up indicating Lee Suho, the youngest professor in the Department of Urban Planning. She had met him in her undergraduate final semester, bowing to him and saying how she looked forward to working with him. Although their time together was short, she respects him from a student's perspective. Her husband had bigger ambitions than most. He was not satisfied with being a university professor. He decided to run for mayor of Hyeomyang City as the ruling party candidate. She joins his campaign as his secretary, and to polish his aristocratic image, they became a show window couple. She is the woman who has been with him the longest. Soon we see them in his office, both in blue suits. He calls her Sojung and asks if she knows why he chose her. It's because she is tight-lipped and has excellent situational awareness. He presses if she has informed anyone about their contract, perhaps relatives or friends. She sweats and avoids eye contact, insisting she hasn't. He clenches his hand, wondering who could have leaked this information. His expression tense as he says he'll trust her for now, but she needs to manage her surroundings thoroughly. She agrees. Someone knocks on the door and a man with glasses enters. A white pop-up box identifies him as Kim Minit-jun, Chief of Staff for the Mayor of Hyeomyang City, a fellow professor of Lee Suho during his time at Dangun University. Kim adjusts his glasses and informs them he has contacted the mayor's mother, suspecting that the leak comes from within the household, suggesting they let go of suspicious individuals. The system displays a picture of Lee, which reads, "The marriage of Lee Suho, mayor of Hyeomyang City, is a show." It's all in the headlines that he is attempting to shed his aristocratic image by pretending to be with a poor commoner woman. The secretary realizes this isn't good. It's all accurately reported. She reads more about their marriage contract, while Kim thinks about who could have leaked such specific information and for what purpose. Noticing our girl breaking a sweat, he reassures her. She wants to speak, but no words come out. She nods and insists she is fine. Kim rolls his eyes, clearly not believing her. She tries to convince him that she's really okay, but Lee remains quiet throughout. Lee calls her name, telling her the place she should be crying is in front of the press, not here. His words stun her. She turns red and opens her mouth like a fish out of water. She looks down and reluctantly agrees to be mindful of that. Gathering her composure, she excuses herself to the restroom for a moment. With unresolved allegations about their show window couple status, a new morning arrives. The candidate stands in front of his office, staring at the sunset. Someone approaches him saying the helicopter carrying the president has entered the airspace over Hyeomyang City. The president's visit coincides with the start of the university semester, and negative reports about Mayor Lee Suho and his wife continue to swirl, with no choice but to follow protocol for the scheduled event. Soon, a limo pulls up. A voice on the scene notes the arrival, and out steps President Kang Chang-young and his wife. Our girl Minute smiles and welcomes them. Inquiring about the inspection, Kang pats Lee on the shoulder, praising him as the best in urban planning. The placement of universities and the location of the research center are exceptional, but she notices the First Lady staring at her intently. After the president enters the hotel, lawmakers from both parties arrive, but the media remains focused on them. The curtain rises on their little play. Minute leans in to ask her husband why he took off his coat earlier when it's so cold today. In this play, she is the devoted wife. He replies it's indeed cold, and Mayor Lee Suho is the husband who cherishes his wife. They link arms, and she expresses gratitude, saying thanks to him, she stays warm, presenting an image of a perfect couple. They are the show window couple. A crowd gathers in a hall, seated on red chairs behind white tables, enjoying meals and chattering away. Kang's wife leans over to Sojung, remarking how the president was thrilled when he heard about Mayor Lee Suho's marriage. Nobody expected the mayor to get hitched, but it seems he finally found someone, although at such an important time. This nonsense is quite the distraction. Lee stands nearby, looking apologetic as he mentions that his wife hasn't been able to sleep since the report surfaced. Kan lets out a laugh, teasing that they had a love marriage, which means they'll get through this just fine. Minute sweats as she insists everything is okay. Understanding his wife's concern, Kang's wife looks at Sojung and points out that she is 29 while the mayor is 35, still young for all this drama. But it's no wonder these ridiculous rumors about them being a showcase couple are gaining traction, especially since they don't have kids yet, right? Minute grips her fork tightly, the words hitting home. Lee holds her hand gently, apologizing for the worry he's caused her. Kang smiles and playfully calls him madam, claiming it's just advice from an elder. Min's mind races, pondering whether having a child would really solve everything. She remembers the mayoral election where they constantly attacked him, asking what does a bachelor know about real life. Honestly, she can't think of any other solution right now. Without one, the public will keep launching their relentless attacks, but a child born under those circumstances wouldn't receive the father's love. Could she love the child enough for the mayor? 2. Just like her mom who raised her alone. Kang's wife interrupts her thoughts with Sojung, and Lee asks if she is okay. Grabbing a tissue in concern, she finds tears welling up in her eyes and manages to say that maybe they should have a child too. That thought settles in her mind as the best option. Lee pauses in disbelief, clearly taken aback by the suggestion. He replies with what? Later that evening in Hyeomyang City Hall, the door slams shut behind them. Kim puts a hand on Min's shoulder, telling her she was reckless for saying that at the dinner. Lee faces away from them, gazing at the sunset, calling out Minute Sojung's name. She replies and turns to him. His brows are furrowed, annoyance etched on his face as he questions her earlier attitude. Kim chimes in, stating that the First Lady is right, the mayor needs a child right now, but Lee tells Minute to get a hold of herself, questioning the absurdity of them getting pregnant, him and her. Seriously, she looks downcast at his words as Kim shouts at Lee, insisting if he's trying to hurt Sojung to make her leave, he shouldn't. After all, he brought her into this because he needs her. Lee glances down and swears under his breath, massaging his temples as he declares they should drop this conversation. He'll handle the scandal himself, while Minute argues that it's purely a matter of adding a few details to the contract, which only frustrates him more as he tells her to stop, but she insists he shouldn't overthink it. Getting up close to him, he shouts stop it, and Minute defends herself, stating she has no intention of holding the mayor back, never daring to hope for something like money. She offers to write an additional memorandum, sighing deeply as sweat drips down her forehead, pleading with him to just focus on resolving this controversy and stating she can raise a child well on her own. Lee responds bluntly that they should just fake a pregnancy, later claiming it was a stress-related miscarriage. Kim interjects, asking what if that gets exposed, which would be the end of everything. The mayor raises his eyebrows, questioning if they think it's reasonable to actually get pregnant. Minute sighs and closes her eyes, repeating that he should just add the additional clauses to the contract, noting that the divorce condition will remain the same. Methods like artificial insemination or IVF could work fine. She tries to convince him this might seem difficult since she has no bedroom experience. Lee raises an amused eyebrow and asks what. She explains that while preparing for tests or procedures, it could come out she has no experience at all, which would only escalate the controversy. If he gives her a little time, she can prepare for artificial insemination or IVF. Kim chuckles, doubtful, while Lee looks at her in annoyance, slamming his palm against his forehead before walking out, asking what on earth they are even talking about. Kim advises Minute it's best to end the conversation here since neither he nor the mayor can handle this. Minute argues passionately, pleading with the chief to persuade the mayor, stating he knows this is the only way to save him. Kim looks at her but stays silent, patting her back gently. Later that evening at Lee Suho's house, an elderly woman greets him, calling him dear and expressing how hard he worked today. It turns out to be Mrs. Moon, Lee Suho's mother. Minute approaches her, giving her a warm greeting and mentioning how tough it must have been for her alone after sending all the workers away. Mrs. Moon shakes her head, saying that indeed, people need to be chosen carefully. Who would have thought they'd air their household matters? Their perfectly fine son and daughter-in-law. Isn't that right? She laughs, blissfully unaware they are a showcase couple. They had plenty of reasons to pretend, even while using separate rooms, until now. He had worked so hard, even pulling off an impressive 3 hours of sleep a day. Lee mentions he'll go rest in his room, suggesting she should do the same. With a smile, the mother-in-law then says that she will clean his room. Lee and Minute exchange wide-eyed glances, looking like deer caught in headlights. Mrs. Moon states that of course, she wouldn't dare clean her daughter-in-law's room. It makes sense to tidy up her son's space. Our main guy blushes, exclaiming mother, but she ignores him, continuing that from tomorrow, people will come to move his things, so it's only logical these two should share a room now. It's too big for one person to live in alone. He sighs dramatically while his mother sweetly reminds him he should have done this since he got married, breaking a sweat as she jokingly mentions nailing the door shut from the inside. He can't help but think, no way. Minute narrates that she now finds herself sharing a room with the mayor, the first time as a couple, feeling a mix of excitement and embarrassment about it. In the room, he takes off his coat, and she panics, telling him he should give it to her, but he glares at her, folding it himself. He informs her he will shower first while she blushes and nervously calls him mayor. In her head, she thinks he must be more self-conscious than usual. She glances at the vanity mirror and notices a white box tied with a red ribbon, wondering what it is. Could it be a gift? She opens it to reveal an indecent outfit. Panic floods through her as she wonders when she prepared this. She apologizes, realizing she doesn't know they are a showcase couple. Questioning if this tiny slip is really pajamas, the door suddenly opens, and he steps out in a long-sleeve blue shirt, water dripping from his hair. Hearing Minute asking someone if they are really telling her to wear this, he wonders who she's talking to. She stands in front of the mirror, trying the pajamas on while talking to her reflection. He walks into the room, simply saying you. She turns and greets him, asking if he already washed up. Her cheeks flush red in an instant as she stumbles over her words. Then he swears loudly, turning to leave in frustration, stating he's going to Minute Jun's place and he won't be back tonight, so she shouldn't wait for him. She protests and tries to stop him, but he walks out anyway. She thinks that surprised look on his face is something she's never seen before, collapsing on the bed, hiding her face in her pillow, questioning how she is supposed to face the mayor tomorrow, feeling both nervous and confused, wondering if she should brush her hair or just hide under the covers. Minute lies on the bed, her face buried in the pillow, contemplating the chaos that just unfolded, thoughts racing through her mind like cars on a highway. How is she supposed to face the mayor tomorrow after dropping that bombshell about wanting a child? This is a man who barely knows her, yet she suggested they take such a monumental step together. Minute Sojung remembers her undergraduate years when the mayor, known then as the notoriously cold Suho, was even less approachable. A flashback reveals the younger man shaking his head in disappointment, asking her if this is really the best she can do. He drops a stack of papers in front of her, stating right from the very start, this was flawed and that she must redo the outline. His reputation among students as cold Suho is well earned, she whispers quietly, pleading for help with attendance so she doesn't end up failing. Yet when she observes how he treats older students, strictness apparent in his demeanor even with seniors, Minute wonders why he's so direct. It seems strange as most professors tend to soften the blow for upperclassmen. At first, she thinks he's just intimidating, but with time, her perspective gradually shifts. She remembers him holding documents and pointing out contradictions in her arguments. His dedication is clear, as though he's required to closely analyze papers unlike others. He guides his students, wanting them to succeed. A laugh escapes Minute as she jokes that she'll just step out for a restroom break. After her excuse, she turns to walk away, but he calls her name. She pauses and responds, curious, arms folded across his chest and serious expression intact. He mentions he left his card in the office and asks if she can retrieve it for him. She smiles and agrees, stepping out. Just moments later, a text pops up from him advising not to think too much about what transpired, noting that the department chair was drunk and she should focus on getting home safely. The message reveals that the card is the one he sometimes gives her for a taxi. Back then, his quiet yet considerate gestures start to grow on her. In a taxi, she tells the driver to drop her off at the studio apartments. He raises an eyebrow, questioning why she wants to go to a place that's hardly far enough for the base fare. Assuring him it's fine, she insists it isn't like she can text him her safe arrival. Who is she to do that? But deep down, she figures he must know she made it home, especially after seeing the taxi fare receipt. With that warm thought, she continues to stick by his side, humming softly as she drifts into sleep. Scene shifts as the mayor appears, sighing and blushing. He wonders aloud why she had to wear such an outfit, questioning what she's even doing. Minute notices the chill in the air and feels him pull the covers over her. As she wakes, she thinks how strange it is, the mayor wouldn't look at her like that, yet here she is holding his hand, inviting him to join her in bed. Things take a decidedly intimate turn, then it's morning, and she wakes alone in bed, turning to the side where he should have been, pondering what strange heated dreams she must have had. She's already at an age where she should have experienced firsts, yet somehow, it seems she's always late to everything romantic. She realizes maybe that's why she sometimes catches herself daydreaming about being passionately loved and held. Quickly getting dressed, she heads to greet her mother-in-law, who asks if she slept well, assuring her she did, then turns the question back to Minute, who sighs in response, admitting she had a restless night thanks to a pretty pointless dream. Thanking goodness it was just a dream. She grabs toast, taking a bite when Mrs. Moon suddenly brings up her son's skills. Minute laughs and shrieks a quick yes. Mrs. Moon presses on, pointing out that if a husband sneaks out in the middle of the night and the wife doesn't stop him, well, it's pretty obvious something's off. Panic rises in Minute as she realizes this is normally the part in dramas when the daughter-in-law gets scolded. Attempting to patch things up, she explains it isn't really like that, it's just that with all the scandals, things have been chaotic recently. That's why Suho went to director Minute Jun's house yesterday. Reflecting on her mother-in-law's special qualities, she hopes maybe she's more favored than Lee, but Mrs. Moon thinks there's something off with that guy. Her daughter-in-law deserves happiness. Meanwhile, Minute struggles with her lack of knowledge in this area. Next, there's a business meeting with men and women in suits discussing an upcoming local district councillor meeting. Someone mentioned significant opposition expected. Minute realizes the spare suit she left in the car isn't quite the usual style. It dawns on her that Lee wouldn't have had time to change out of his clothes. Did he borrow director Minute Jun's shirt? Suddenly, Lee turns his head, and their eyes meet. Minute ponders if Suho's nighttime skills are really lacking. The way he skirts around the question makes it seem that way. She coughs, breaking her thoughts, forcing everyone in the room to turn their attention towards her. Blushing, she apologizes and explains she got a bit distracted. A brown-haired woman in a navy pantsuit opens her mouth, suggesting maybe Minute has some secret she isn't sharing, and that woman is Yoon Sung-jae, Chief Secretary of Hyeomyang City. Another colleague, Kim Jung Hyun, cautions her about making assumptions given their same positions. Minute awkwardly laughs, claiming she remembered a dream from last night that must have been lottery numbers. The room bursts into laughter, though deep down, she wishes she could have that dream again. Lee looks stunned by her response, and she realizes he turns away from her again, wondering why he's avoiding her. A chief pushes up her glasses, silent towards Lee as they get back to business. At some point during the meeting preparations, Yoon approaches Minute again, offering her some coffee, to which she gratefully accepts, then teasingly asks where Yoon buys her underwear. Yoon raises an eyebrow, caught off guard, inquiring if Minute is looking for some new items. Minute shares a laugh, explaining that Hyeomyang City lacks a good shopping mall and she ventured to the market once. Though Cheongju City is the biggest nearby and filled with things to do, yet it feels like she wouldn't even have time to enjoy herself. Yoon insists she's turning 30 soon, still young enough to seek fresh air and excitement, promising to drop Minute off later. Both women share laughter over their coffee, feeling the thrill of city life. But little do they know that the chaos awaiting them in Cheongju is more than just shopping. Suddenly, from outside, a guy with a white stripe on his head bellows through a megaphone, shouting about the education city of Hyeomyang demanding an end to policies harming small business owners, and before they know it, he hurls insults at Minute, catching her and Yoon by surprise as they exchange bewildered glances amidst the uproar. Unsure of what's next, they brace themselves for whatever craziness the day will bring. Minute Sojung walks down a busy road, a smile spreading across her face as she thinks that showing up in matching pajamas should make her mother feel a little relieved. After all, with the lack of affection they've been exhibiting lately, this small gesture might be the very least she can do. Suddenly, a man shouts into a megaphone, demanding that the government must stop the relocation of universities immediately, and as he continues his speech, people in the crowd begin to respond, shouting phrases like "Stop it! Stop it!" with fervor. Then a red box appears, prominently displaying the message University Studio Apartment Association, and the man with the megaphone calls for the abolition of an education capital that deceives the public, spurring the crowd into action as they chant, "Abolish it! Abolish it!" These protesters are clearly against the government's university relocation policy that has led to an increase in vacancies in the studio apartments near the universities. Rents have dropped by a staggering 15%, and while it might still be considered an average price, from their perspective, this is nothing short of a significant loss. Meanwhile, strangers nearby begin muttering amongst themselves. One man turns to a woman beside him, skeptically asking if they can even hold a rally here. And the woman responds affirmatively. Their conversation flutters into Min's ears as she navigates through the sea of strangers, desperately realizing she needs to get out of this chaotic scene quickly. She doesn't want to be caught up in whatever madness is brewing. Suddenly, a man adorned with a bright yellow hard hat blocks her path, his voice booming as he points a finger in her direction, accusing her of pretending to be a trophy wife. The crowd gasps collectively in shock, and some people start shouting in confusion, "What? Is that for real?" Another voice joins in, claiming, "There she is. Don't let her get away." Panic bubbles within Minute as she starts to run, but just then, someone grabs her arm, insisting they bring her to the platform. Her heart races as she realizes she not only mocked the public by pretending to be part of the couple, but now she's being accused of monitoring their protests. Voices rise in anger, with cries urging her to explain herself. The atmosphere grows tense as the crowd pushes for answers, while others demand that she come clean. Minute thinks frantically about how worked up everyone has become, warning herself that an accident could occur at any moment, so she turns to the crowd and attempts to shout back that they can point fingers at her all they want, but pushing forward is incredibly dangerous. One voice rises above the rest, questioning if she really wants to become the mayor's wife so badly. Vile insults are hurled at her with accusations of her humble beginnings and desperate attempts to climb the social ladder. Min's grip on her bag tightens as she feels the anger and hostility of the crowd. Suddenly police officers arrive on the scene, and the lead officer steps forward, announcing that participants in this unauthorized illegal protest need to cease their actions and disperse. Naturally, a protester challenges their authority, asking why they should disperse when all they're doing is protesting. The tension escalates as the officers instruct the crowd to move along. Min's mind races with panic over what she should do next. If this keeps up, something terrible might happen. Just then, someone throws an egg, hitting her, and the crowd erupts, cheering at the hit and calling for more, delighting in the unfolding chaos as they shout, "Good, bad person." Minute falls to the ground in shock as the barrage of eggs continues. The police officers break a sweat as they attempt to calm the crowd down. One officer shouts that they should stop the violent actions immediately. Minute whispers to herself that she must keep it together. She can't cry here, not now. Suddenly she notices someone placing a coat over her head. Looking up, she sees him, the mayor, rushing in to shield her from the chaos while shouting at the protesters, demanding to know what they are doing, questioning whether they even understand the state of his wife's health. How could they commit such acts of violence? Minute feels disoriented, her thoughts spiraling as she contemplates her health and the situation at large. Someone from the crowd screams at the mayor, pointing out that he's merely a show window husband and that he's got no right to act like one. Then another protester hurls an egg, splattering it on his coat. He grits his teeth at their audacity and tells them they are nothing more than cowards threatening a powerless woman while committing collective violence. He vows that he will not let this situation slide. The atmosphere shifts as the crowd quiets down, the mayor's authoritative voice cutting through the tension. He places a reassuring hand on Min's shoulder, asking her gently if she's hurt anywhere. She looks down, clenching her fists as she fights back tears. Lee urges her to stay focused, asking her not to look anywhere else while calling her full name, holding her protectively as he assures her everything will be okay. He firmly leads her away from the chaos while a police officer walks alongside them, safely escorting them into the house. As they step inside, Mrs. Moon rushes in, her eyes wide with concern as she asks what's going on, her worry deepening when she finally sees Minute. Noting the mess done onto her daughter-in-law, she gasps that if an egg hit her, it must hurt a lot. Questioning whether she's bruised and how she is feeling, Minute assures her that she's fine, feeling as though her words aren't convincing anyone. But just then, her bag tears open, and pajamas spill out onto the floor. Mrs. Moon's voice breaks as she exclaims in a tearful tone, "Isn't this a pajama set? Did you go out to buy this?" She can't help but lament that Minute could have just worn what she already had instead. Gesturing wildly with distress, she insists that leaving her daughter-in-law like this is unacceptable. Minute tries to reassure her once more, saying she's really okay, but Mrs. Moon, insistent as ever, argues that she needs to be checked. citing the fact that Minute just got hit and pleading for her to let her check for any bruises. She even goes so far as to declare that Minute is like her own daughter, leading her toward the room. Minute thinks about how she really doesn't want to go, but Mrs. Moon is determined, urging her to hold still while she examines for bruises, instructing her to lie down and take off her clothes, claiming she needs to massage any bruises and apply ointment. Minute protests yet again that Mrs. Moon should really wait for a second, explaining that she didn't actually get hit that hard, but Mrs. Moon ignores her objections, repeating that she should obey, and finally, left with no choice, Minute reluctantly lays down under the covers, unaware of how Mrs. Moon mischievously manages to get Lee into the room before quietly disappearing, leaving Minute to face whatever unexpected awkwardness awaits her. Thoughts racing in her mind as she tries to prepare herself for what's next. Lee feels a wave of guilt wash over him about the recent incident. He offers Minute an out of their marriage. Minute hesitates, believing that if they get a divorce now, it would be as if they were admitting to being nothing more than a show window couple, a thought that sends a shiver down her spine, knowing that if that were to happen, everything he has built up until now would come crashing down. Lee admits that he knows, sparking a flurry of questions in Min's mind. She wonders why he would even suggest such a thing, questioning if they really should consider divorce. Overwhelmed with emotion, she bursts into tears while expressing her regret, pleading with him not to talk about divorce, asking what she is supposed to do in a situation like this. Her heart races as the possibility of never seeing this person again looms over her, wanting to stay by his side, even if it means living as a show window couple. Is that truly her being selfish? Lee comforts her, assuring her that they're not getting a divorce, that she should stop crying. He admits that he feels as if he's going a little crazy. Minute wipes her tears and gives a small nod of understanding. Just then, someone walks in and calls her name, announcing they brought the ointment, and to her surprise, it's Mrs. Moon who appears, praising Lee for being such a gentleman, a true gentleman. She enthusiastically points out how Lee wrapped his wife tightly in the blanket. She mentions that she prepared warm water, stating that the bath water is ready, suggesting they soak in it together as usual. Minute feels a rush of mortification, realizing that Mrs. Moon planned this so the new servant wouldn't think it was strange. Mrs. Moon even tells the other older woman present that they usually bathe together since it's a good time to bond. Minute, feeling the pressure, decides to say she will shower first and come out, but Lee is quick to prevent her from moving. Touching the water to check the temperature, he comments that it's not very hot, reassuring her that she should relax in the warm water. Feeling a mix of shyness and embarrassment, she slowly steps into the bath, wondering if she's the only one overthinking things, questioning if she had been possessed by some mischievous demon ever since that strange dream. She tells Lee to leave his shirt there so she can wash it for him, but then scolds herself silently for her own teasing thoughts. Wondering why it feels like he's moving closer, she squeezes her eyes shut in anticipation. Later, moments pass, and we see Lee helping her apply the ointment. The atmosphere almost turns romantic as he leans in, creating a moment that feels charged. Just as he is about to kiss her, a sudden knock on the door interrupts them. Minute calls out, "Yes, come in," and to her chagrin, it's Mrs. Moon who walks in, her eyes widening as she takes in the cozy scene. She questions if she should come back later. Lee quickly turns away, pretending to focus on the documents on the desk, while Mrs. Moon browses through the room. She casually mentions that, by the way, Sojung, has she noticed anything different about herself? Minute cluelessly replies yes, she's wearing the lovely gift she bought for her, and it suits her so well, with a proud smile. Mrs. Moon beams and suggests they should take a commemorative photo together since she's into Instagram these days, adding that she was going to follow her, Sojung. But sadly, those people have been complaining about stressful mother-in-law dynamics and sending friend requests on social media. Mrs. Moon's face falls at the thought, revealing that she didn't get to do it. Minute diplomatically states that she only has one account. Mrs. Moon gestures and insists that anyway, she should come closer. Standing next to someone young doesn't work for her anymore, playfully saying that she's going to pull her face back a bit. Minute nods in agreement before they snap some photos together, while Lee, observing from a distance, can't help but feel a warm blush creeping onto his cheeks as he watches the mother-daughter moment unfold. The very next morning at Hyeomyong City Hall finds Lee holding a critical document. He turns to Chief Kim, asking if he checked that there are no omissions in the 5-year development plan. Chief Kim replies that yes, they've covered everything, although he foresees complaints about slow development from the outskirts. They've decided to focus on road maintenance for the moment. Lee sighs in frustration, questioning how long they have to keep using the budget to appease the council members, then suddenly shifting the topic, he mentioned Sojung's incident from yesterday, instructing them to proceed with the lawsuit after they collect the evidence. Chief Kim looks taken aback, questioning what Lee means. But Lee calmly states that Sojung wouldn't want to pursue any action. They will, however, obtain a medical certificate. Chief Kim cautions that filing a lawsuit against a citizen won't bode well for public opinion, even if they aren't a resident of Hyeomyong City. Lee feels anger bubbling at the surface, asking if they can retaliate in the same way, wondering aloud if they can catch the culprits and throw eggs at them. Chief Kim raises an eyebrow, clearly alarmed. Adjusting his glasses, he concedes that he'll prepare for the lawsuit, then he hesitates, saying it's Sojung, implying she must have finished her examination at the hospital, stating he'll tell her to rest and return in the afternoon. But then his words get caught in his throat as he realizes the slip-up. Sighing, he corrects himself, saying her name is not Sojung, but Madam. Chief Kim looks a bit confused, and Lee reminds him that since they have watchers, they should change her name on his phone to something else, stating he can make mistakes in front of him but must be careful in front of others. Chief Kim nods in understanding, promising to be more cautious. Meanwhile, in a downtown cafe, Minute sits feeling thoroughly embarrassed when the waiter approaches, presenting her order, informing her that her order is ready. She looks confused and insists she didn't order this cake. The waiter cheekily responds that it's on the house, and with a smirk, states this much isn't against the law, right? Minute gulps, breaking a sweat as she wonders what the waiter means, completely taken aback. While the waitress calls for the next customer, Minute notices a note on her table and curiously asks herself what it could be. As she reads it, the message expresses gratitude for the dormitory support from Hyeomyong City, stating that now she has much more financial and time flexibility. Her peers rave about how safe Hyeomyong City is, with fantastic research facilities and ample government support, making life here so much more convenient. And as Minute reads the letter, a smile spreads across her face. Feeling elated, she thinks that her efforts weren't in vain, but her posted picture with her mother-in-law seems to spark mixed reactions from the public, some loving it while others are less than thrilled, but in her heart, she knows she wouldn't trade this moment for anything. Mrs. Moon excitedly gushes, her eyes sparkling with delight, asking if maybe her daughter-in-law has become an SNS star, questioning if she's now an influencer, because wouldn't that be something? And the smile that doesn't leave the mother's face radiates warmth and joy as she walks into the room wearing an apron and carrying a heavy iron skillet, announcing that her daughter-in-law needs to nourish her body by eating a lot. Well, maybe if she had just mentioned being pregnant, this wouldn't be such a big deal. Our girl's eyes widen in disbelief at the mention of pregnancy. The sound of her heart racing becomes audible, and then her husband chokes on his drink, gasping out a string of words about his wife's state of health, confused as to whether they even know what's going on with her body, and yet somehow, they jump straight to assumptions of impending motherhood. The mother-in-law raises her phone, revealing a picture of our girl and guy together, and then mentions that there are so many articles about them too, causing our girl to wonder why the sudden focus on her condition has come up. She hears her husband quickly mention that she said she felt unwell during the meeting, and suddenly the memory dawns on her, realizing it was due to a particularly racy dream she had the night before. Her cheeks flush deeply, a bright cherry red, while Mrs. Moon innocently asks if there's anything else she wants to eat. Oh my, the smell of food must be overwhelming. Maybe she should be careful with her appetite from now on. Her guy walks past her seated position, casually telling her that he'll get up first, making her feel a mixture of annoyance and embarrassment. And our girl remains seated, her heart racing as she continues sweating bullets while insisting it's not like that. Another elderly woman chimes in, overwhelmed by the news, saying that it was all over the news. Initially thinking there's no way two people could be so close, Mrs. Moon confidently retorts that of course they fell in love in school and got married. Isn't that the ideal way to live? At the entrance of Hyeomyong City Hall, our girl struts confidently in a pair of gleaming black heels, greeted by a male staff member who warmly informs her that she has arrived early. She reciprocates his smile, greeting reporter Jung Tae-ji with a forced enthusiasm, and suddenly she thinks that meeting him first thing in the morning is some kind of impossible luck. Tae-ji, from the political department of Dongshin Ilbo, doesn't exactly conceal his disdain for her husband. Crossing his arms, he casually mentions that the mayor has sued the citizen who threw eggs at her. Her eyes widen in disbelief. She's almost speechless as she processes this news. Tai chuckles, gleefully, asserting that since they are a show window couple, she must be quite out of the loop. She can feel her cheeks burning red as she feels the sweat trickle down her back. And she retorts that he should stop making baseless accusations. His uninterested body language only adds to her growing irritation, as he picks at his ear, a move that infuriates her even more. Feeling a surge of energy, she can hardly contain herself as she points out that he even referenced an interview with a department head who had a beef with her back during her graduate school days, describing her as a woman who would stop at nothing to climb the social ladder, shaking her head in disbelief at his audacity while urging him instead to write dignified articles as a proper journalist. Her passionate outburst is suddenly interrupted when she spots her husband rushing toward them, his brow glistening with sweat as if he just ran a marathon. He stands protectively in front of her, panting as he tells her that they should come along. After taking her hand, he swiftly starts leading her away while she feels a surge of gratitude that he's standing up for her. However, this seems to irk the reporter, who scoffs, claiming that for now, he may deceive people with their genuine display of affection, but the truth about their society-driven show window couple status will come to light when it matters most, pointing his finger accusingly and declaring that if suspicions continue to swirl, they will eventually solidify into fact. Once they are safely in the privacy of an office, he gently releases her hand, advising her not to engage with such people at all, gesturing to the window. He explains that they keep following her because she keeps responding, making it sound far more dramatic than it actually is. He professes his intent to avoid long exchanges but realizes that she has a fiery side. Feeling a bit intimidated but amused by her passion, she places a hand on her chest, trying to catch her breath. Feeling a bit stunned mentally and wondering when she became so worked up, she brings up how he mentioned before that she doesn't need to excel in everything and should simply complete her tasks instead. Insisting that she's fully capable of handling it herself, she adds that she appreciates his concern but decides she can take care of her own affairs, once again affirming her independence as she turns on her heel, determined to step out the door, doubting her earlier rush of anger and if she should have just remained silent. Next, the scene shifts to a house radiating bright sunlight. It's the weekend morning at Suho's residence, a beautiful picture of family harmony. Our girl thinks about how she should probably be preparing for work even when it's the weekend, since the demands never seem to slow down. She strides confidently into a crowded living room, calling out for her grandfather, and suddenly an elderly man with white hair bursts into hearty laughter, exclaiming that their granddaughter-in-law is finally awake. They introduce Lee Minute-han, Suho's grandfather, who seems to embody wisdom and warmth. She feels a touch of guilt for not waking up earlier when she learns he has arrived. He chuckles, revealing he chose not to wake her because of the news about her potential pregnancy, a common reason for feeling extra sleepy and lethargic. Both she and Lee shout in unison, clearly shocked at the news, an outburst that echoes through the room, making everyone pause for a moment. Mrs. Moon adds that she always thought Suho was the fragile one. Yet here he is handling everything, making the atmosphere feel a bit too light-hearted for what's at stake. Her grandfather takes her hands warmly and with a sincerity that resonates deeply, shares that after Suho's father passed away, a heavy burden settled on his heart. He expresses concern that he fears his grandson is solely gunning for the presidential seat because of it, and there's a palpable tension in the air as he reveals that losing his son and living apart has truly been painful. He then adds that hearing his new daughter-in-law might bring forth many children brings a spark of joy to his heart, thanking her for the gift of being in his life. Feeling grateful for this chance at familial connection, he chokes back tears, revealing the emotional weight of the moment as they all gather around him. He shares that he feels like he has lived long enough to see this day. The women surrounding them rally and cry out "Elder," as they present him with 2 pills. Someone asks what kind of medication that is, only to discover that it's an emergency vasodilator, prescribed for sudden shortness of breath or heart pain. The elder can't undergo any more heart procedures due to his age, and our girl absorbs the scene with a heavy heart. Realizing that a man who once dominated as prime minister has significantly aged, he shares a heartfelt wish for the first great-grandchild to be a granddaughter since he never had a daughter or held one. Admiring his granddaughter-in-law for such a great deed, she feels an overwhelming mix of emotions, her mind racing as the weight of expectation settles on her. Yet when the envelope he hands her catches her attention, curiosity gets the best of her, revealing 1 million won in cash along with a heartfelt handwritten letter detailing fortunes for their future child. Her heart races as she reads his words concerning life, emphasizing his hope for living long enough to support Suho while also telling her the names he wishes for their child. If it's a daughter, he hopes they name her Eun-woo, and if it's a son, Yoongu, all imbued with a sense of hope and legacy, expressing sincere gratitude for the letter he wrote, stating that it felt like a chore, but actually, it wasn't. Wishing for her to take care of herself during this process, deeply emotional. The next scene shows our main guy entering a room to find our girl on her knees, tears streaming down her face as she questions what they should do next, feeling suffocated by the expectations piling up on her. Her heart feels heavy as she expresses her fear of not being able to meet everyone's wishes, and in this vulnerable moment, he softly touches her shoulder while she shakes, whispering that they should have a child. Her teary eyes brighten with hope at his words, feeling a rush of relief and joy simultaneously as she curiously asks if he's really serious, and with gentle reassurance, he wraps her in a warm hug, solidifying their shared commitment to start a family and affirming that yes, they indeed should have their child, filling the room with a whole new level of anticipation and emotional connection, bringing them closer as they embark on this beautiful journey of hope together. Our girl continues to share her story, and after the mayor and she reach a significant decision to have a child, they recognize the necessity of rewriting their marriage contract, making their way through the complexities of their unusual relationship. She finds herself standing in front of her manager, wondering why he is lingering outside instead of heading inside the building. Kim glances at her slightly hesitant and suggests they talk for a moment. He takes off his glasses, a gesture that always seems to signal serious conversations, revealing a concerned expression as he asks if she is truly okay with this pregnancy. His tone is full of genuine worry as he articulates that he thinks she might be sacrificing too much for this choice, urging her to consider her life once this chapter closes, advising her to think about how she plans to raise a child on her own. And she feels a flicker of irritation and determination as she contemplates whether he genuinely believes she decided to embark on this path without the resolve to see it through. She knows that in the world's eyes, single mothers who choose to raise a child alone are often seen as having ruined their lives, but she understands that in actuality, they are warriors tackling each day with fierce determination and strength. As she meets his gaze, she leans into her conviction, expressing her desire that the city they cherish should embody a dream of a happy place where even the weakest among them find support rather than neglect. She asserts that she wants to be, no, she will be an independent mother living in such a city, one where opportunities are abundant and mothers can flourish together. Kim holds her name in cautious tones, witnessing her passionate declaration, and she notices him break a light sweat under the weight of the conversation. Despite his underlying concern, her confidence comes through with a bright smile as she lets out a small laugh, playfully indicating it's time to head inside because, after all, the mayor is waiting for them. She begins to move forward, but he halts her with a firm but gentle grasp on her arm, seeking to draw her back for another moment of dialogue. She tilts her head in a questioning manner, then frees her hand from his grip, asserting once again that she will go in first, determined to take the lead. As she steps inside the building, she encounters a man dressed in a sharp suit, holding a paper bearing important details. He asks with a tone that feels a tad sardonic if she feels no regrets about this plan, reminding her that even with the future child they're planning, this contract will eventually end in divorce. She looks directly at him without wavering and confidently states that she is acutely aware of that little fact, commending his ability to rise to the position of mayor at the young age of 35 due to his meticulous calculations and strategizing. She reflects on how he's someone who prepares for his goals down to the minutest detail, and that realization brings forth a cascade of thoughts regarding how their relationship seems predestined to end precisely as he has planned it. It has always felt like a relationship constructed on a foundation set for divorce from the very start. Without missing a beat, he counters by suggesting they simply need to add one additional clause under Article 1 of their contract, a line that states pregnancy is not an issue, as if throwing the smallest of curveballs into the mix. Flipping through their documents, she reviews the clauses carefully, and her heart races as she reads through Article 3 and 4. Article 3 clearly indicates that they must fulfill the duties of a spouse, excluding sexual relations, while also avoiding any acts that could lead to social issues like infidelity, adultery, or gambling, which are serious grounds for divorce. While Article 4 lays out that divorce shall be decided by mutual agreement between them, and that after the marriage is dissolved, the division of property and rights will follow legal limits. All of these terms swirling around her mind leave her feeling uneasy, as Kim urges both of them to check the clauses again meticulously. Our girl ponders deeply whether they should strike out that line about duties of a spouse, excluding sexual relations in Article 3, because if she's going to get pregnant, logical reasoning insists they should eventually become physically intimate, and it dawns on her that he hasn't said anything about that critical point. The lawyer standing nearby hands her a pen, urging her to sign on the dotted line. She takes the pen and feels the weight of the moment press down on her, grasping its significance. She signs with a mix of anticipation and apprehension. After they finalize the revisions to the marriage contract, she feels a lingering sense of distraction wash over her, struggling to focus on her work afterward, as her mind drifts continually to what lies ahead of them. During a crucial board meeting, her thoughts are completely elsewhere, even as discussions progress regarding the supplementary budget review. Her anxiety spikes when she wonders if he is planning to get her pregnant through methods other than natural conception. Sure, the mayor may wish to avoid the complications of physical intimacy, yet Kim has previously pointed out that such methods could prove challenging, and she feels her hands shaking beneath the table, seeking to regain her composure and focus. Her guy casually remarks about the ongoing renovations on Nambu Jichin Road, yet again, and Kim counters playfully, arguing back that they had just newly paved it last year, and the room buzzes with mixed reactions. Another participant adjusts his glasses as he reads the document aloud, looking up to reveal that it's Assemblyman Kang Pilju's district under discussion, and he expresses that he has heard Assemblyman Kang is particularly unhappy because the budget allocation for his district fell short of expectations this time around. Suddenly, a voice slams the table in frustration, insisting that the Assemblyman is merely pretending to do his job while he holds up the road renovation review, and they start discussing the need to dispatch experts from the road construction division. Recalling how they established an advisory group last year to prevent issues just like this, our girl thinks to herself about how Assemblyman Kang Pilju holds considerable influence among lawmakers in their districts and enjoys remarkably high approval ratings, and if this situation continues, they risk holding back essential projects in the educational autonomous district. She voices her opinion passionately to her colleagues, asserting that they can't just blindly oppose anything and everything. Realizing that before standing against the supplementary budget review, they must come up with other tangible welfare programs utilizing the special budget. As her guy turns to her, he asks if she has any ideas in mind, and she brightly suggests that during the off-season, seniors in rural areas generally spend time resting at community centers. So why not increase financial support for heating costs at each community center and enhance activity funds specifically for those over 65? Hearing her practical proposal, Kim agrees with a nod, acknowledging it sounds not only feasible but also beneficial. Speculating that they could save significantly on budget costs while providing deserving praise to the district representatives and lifting their morale, she concludes that they should indeed implement this plan, urging him to discover the annual schedules for each district. Her playful demeanor returns as they discuss how either the mayor or she should attend the events of district representatives to capture some credit for their hard work, right? And her guy chuckles, warmed by the unexpected humor in their conversation. A few moments later, she finds herself sitting in the ladies' room, deep in thought, as she thinks about how she should prepare for necessary medical checkups for potential pregnancy, just in case. Weighing the challenges that could arise if she hasn't had any experience with sexual intercourse, a reality that begins to feel more pressing by the day. Then, just a few days later, in front of Hyeomyong City Hall, she finds herself facing a commotion. As her main guy stops her by a moving truck, he calls her full name in a slightly urgent tone, gripping her shoulders firmly to ensure he has her full attention. He insists that she doesn't need to go to Kang Pilju's district, reminding her it's better to send support items instead. Explaining that although public opinion about their show window marriage has died down thanks to the mother's social media posts, those supporting the opposition party still aren't thrilled, and Kang Pilju carries a loud voice even among the party members. Our girl counters, that's why she has to go. If the mayor is too busy, it falls on the wife's shoulders to step in, ensuring that everything runs smoothly. She adds that nothing will happen and the manager will go too, as she pushes him slightly away, telling him to hurry and get to his meeting. As he walks away, she reflects on how he has been considerate ever since the egg incident, noting that it's nice he's treating her kindly despite the circumstances. The scene shifts to the community center where our girl sports a ponytail and a blue apron, smiling radiantly as she asks a group of elderly people if the food suits their taste. She further explains to them how Assemblyman Kang Pilju worked hard for the expansion of the community center, assuring them he was so concerned about the chilly winds creeping in where the seniors rested. Thinking to herself, seeing the newly respectable community center calms her heart. One of the elderly people takes her hand gently amidst the group, saying, "Oh my, how can she speak so prettily," wishing her daughter-in-law could have the same level of thoughtfulness. And our girl feels slightly awkward, recognizing the roughness of her own hands. The scene shifts to a nearby church, with music filtering from the building, and she spots a child dressed in a cheerful yellow and blue outfit. Curiously pointing at the child and asking whose little one it is, the elderly woman beside her breaks a sweat as she explains the mother is a single mom who works late at the factory, reiterating that she told the woman not to leave the child home alone but instead to drop them off at the community center. Our girl realizes that the child is eating so well, feeling a proud sense of admiration, thanking her lucky stars that the event ends without any trouble. Yet gossip swirls around her, referring to the mayor's wife smiling at district representatives' events and the mayor himself supposed to run over to check on his fake wife. Then her gaze finds the mayor arriving, and she wonders if he came rushing here right after his meeting. Her curiosity piques as the elderly man remarks that the two of them are quite the actors, noting that's why he's so good at pretending to be a married couple. Which brings a smirk to her face, as she acknowledges that sometimes they do need to put on an act when necessary. He rakes his hand through his hair as he responds that Assemblyman Kang is also putting in plenty of effort, trying to appear competent as a lawmaker, which has inadvertently led to the construction of a new community center. The man turns red, caught off guard, asking what she meant by that. And her guy interjects that he believes those efforts are also important because, in politics, every little contribution counts. Adding that there might be a supplementary budget allocated later that would mean increased support for seniors over 65 in the neighborhoods, which sounds great, as heating and cooling cost support for community centers will also begin, leaving the man blushing as he wonders aloud why he's being told all of this now. Lee happily suggests he should promote himself as a hard-working assemblyman, gaining visibility for his efforts, before they finally begin to part ways. The next scene shows our couple moving together in a car, and their girl asks why the atmosphere was just fine without him, and why he came to pick a fight with Assemblyman Kang, genuinely confused about his role in the drama unfolding. He insists that he didn't start it, but now he needs to stop by City Hall before heading home, noting that he has some work left to sort out. While our girl thinks to herself why he decided to come all the way here instead of staying to work at City Hall like the mayor should, Kim, occupying the front seat, wonders if he really has any idea what's happening. Later that night, at Suho's house, someone shouts, "Minute Sojung," announcing that she has a delivery. And our guy's confusion seeps through as he asks, "A delivery?" curious about the unusual package. She thinks to herself that she doesn't usually order anything online, so what is this surprise package? Then he opens the box, peering inside, wondering what could possibly await them. It feels like opening a treasure chest full of mystery and excitement, leaving them both in anticipation of what's to come, because who doesn't love a good surprise, right? A blue car with sleek, fancy headlights catches the eye. The camera shifts to our girl who casually mentions that she dropped off the mayor right in front of City Hall. She watches as he strides into the building without so much as glancing back, ticking off the list in her mind that he is busy, yet he still attended the event, so why is he working so hard to impress everyone? A mystery left unanswered. Now sitting in the back seat of a car, she gazes out the window lost in thought. Something feels off, like someone is watching her. She turns and finds Kim staring at her, his eyes wide with confusion. After a bit of silence, she breaks the tension by playfully calling him manager. Her mind flashes back to the elders enjoying their beers together, and she's suddenly craving one herself. A longing smile spreads across her face as he returns her smile and suggests they should grab a beer since work is officially over. She beams and closes her eyes, agreeing to just one. The anticipation of that cold drink makes her giddy. The next scene finds her happily sipping from a bottle. She swears it feels like she just finished it in record time. Talk about feeling the buzz, realizing she may have left the gathering a bit too quickly. Arriving home, she finds her main guy at the foot of the front door looking cross, arms crossed and glaring at her like a storm cloud, demanding to know where she has been this late at night. She looks confused at first before the realization hits her. Oh right, Mr. Mayor, no wait, her husband, his home first. Noting something about his tone seems different tonight, leaving her feeling slightly uneasy. Trying to explain herself, she stumbles over her words, saying she had a beer with manager Minjun. He responds that people are watching them to see if she is pregnant or not. Does she really need to go out for a drink now? Suddenly she gets that he might be worried about attracting attention. She shrugs it off playfully, saying she's not pregnant yet, but she plans to be soon. After that all suspicion will disappear, right? He fires back, asking what the worry is. She brushes that off, but his next move sends a wave of confusion through her as he slams her open package onto the table. Breaking into a sweat, she starts asking herself what that package is even doing in their home. Feeling the heat rise in her cheeks as she asks him snidely whether he has the nasty habit of snooping through other people's deliveries. She quickly realizes how embarrassed she feels, but decides anger is the better route to take. He holds his ground, asking why she would ever need something like that, holding up her package like it's a strange artifact. A light tussle ensues as she fights back, demanding he gives it back. He deftly pulls it out of her reach, insisting on knowing why she bought it in the first place. Here goes nothing, she stammers under his piercing grey eyes, admitting it's her first time and she wants to be prepared. He groans as he tells her she doesn't need to be perfect. Didn't he tell her that already? She argues back with a fire in her eyes, saying she just wants to do it right. Frustration bubbles over as he angrily throws away her package, and she glares at him, wondering what in the world he thinks he's doing because that is hers. He stands firm, asserting that she doesn't need this. She counters that if they can't do it naturally, she has to try other ways, a hint of mischief dancing in her eyes. He replies quickly that they're not doing it any other way, and she raises an eyebrow, saying what? She isn't ready to give up just yet. He seems to reconsider for a moment and turns toward her with a confident grin, telling her they can just do it the old-fashioned way. She gasps, what is he saying? This is insane. Their eyes lock and a moment of tension hangs between them, seeing the blush creeping onto their cheeks as they separate a bit awkwardly. He takes a brave step forward, ready to show her how to be romantic. She stirs nervously, trying to follow his lead, but she looks anything but ready for it, so he resorts to teasing her by saying he wants to test her, leaving her wondering just what kind of test this is going to be. A playful grin appears on her face as she knows this night is getting more interesting by the second. Suho leans in close, breath warm against her neck, voice low and teasing, the space between them charged. There's something in his tone that dances the line between playful and bold, a challenge wrapped in velvet. He draws in a slow breath, steady but deliberate. She tenses, heart skipping as a shiver runs down her spine. If there was such a thing as the perfect man, she thought, it would have been him, always calm, always composed. That serious face made him look like he belonged behind a podium, not whispering these things. But wow, turns out he's the king of saying outrageous stuff with a straight face. His gaze lingers as he hovers above her, steady and unreadable. When he calls her name, her eyes flicker up. This feels off, she thought. Strange. A little scary, even. He notices the shift in her expression, the tightness in her shoulders. He doesn't say anything, just quietly gets up and steps away. Her voice follows him, confused. Why is he going to the bathroom? She wonders. Did something happen? Or worse, is he not satisfied with me? From inside the bathroom, a soft scent drifts out, clean, but with something faintly sweet, like cedar and aftershave. She picks it up right away, nose twitching slightly. Is it weird that even the bathroom smells good? Like, really good? Her voice floats through the door, unsure, hesitant. He answers, voice low and a little rougher now. She blinks. Desires? Seriously? Does someone with desires just walk away like that? That doesn't even make sense. There's silence for a beat before his voice cuts through again, sharper this time. She startles. His words land harder than she expects, catching her off guard. Sure, she thinks, I was a little scared, maybe even nervous, but it's not like I looked at him with disgust. She frowns, unsure where any of this is coming from. He doesn't wait. He steps out, his expression unreadable as he brushes past her. The door clicks gently behind him. Suho steps in quietly, loosening his collar. I need a drink, he thinks, the weight on his shoulders heavier than usual. The bartender eyes him curiously, wiping a glass as he leans forward. He nods, sliding onto a stool. I feel a bit frustrated, he admits, running a hand through his hair. Could you bring me some soju and a side dish? The bartender offers a knowing smile. I'll bring you some warm soup in a bit. Take your time and enjoy. A familiar pop breaks the silence as he cracks open the bottle himself, pours a shot with a steady hand, and downs it in one clean motion. The burn settles in his chest. I shouldn't have brought up the department head, he thinks, grimacing slightly. The glass clinks as he sets it down, eyes fixed on nothing in particular. He wonders to himself, who exactly are you doing all this for? Just like that, Kay starts meeting Sojung twice a week outside of class. She's timid, the kind of student who can't even hold his gaze. That's the first impression she gives. Her skills aren't bad for a university student, but honestly, they don't impress him much. He remembers telling her, your foundation is terrible. Reorganize the outline from the start. She quietly follows his orders, gathering and compiling materials over and over. Meanwhile, the deadline for the thesis plan slips by unnoticed. He recalls saying, it's not like this school only has amateurs. This level is. His phone rings. It's Kim Min-jun. He answers, and Kim immediately complains about demanding too much from Sojung, the only student who hasn't submitted her thesis plan yet. He points out the deadline's missed because the plan hasn't been approved. He wonders if Kim's really worried about her thesis or just busy with other things. Kim reminds him that Sojung isn't from a wealthy family and suggests he cut her some slack. Tuition's expensive, and as her advisor, he should help her get funding by supporting her paper submissions. He feels irritated and wonders if he's running a charity. Kim tells him to just approve the paper already and says he trusts him, then hangs up. He calls Sojung in. As she walks through the door, he thinks she's finally starting to listen. Over the past few weeks, she's gathered evidence exactly as he instructed. It's solid enough to be recognized by a reputable journal. Now she's beginning to understand, he thinks, but Kim's words come back to him, and it annoys him more than he expected. He looks at her and says, reorganize the outline from scratch. This won't work. At that moment, she, usually composed and unreadable, finally lets her emotion slip through. Seeing it catches him off guard, but there's a strange satisfaction in it. He's not sure if it's because there's always been some distant wall between them, or if he's just a little twisted. As time passes after her first paper, Sojung's growth becomes clear. With just a bit of advice, she improves the flow, tightening her arguments. Some of her work even earns recognition as a significant achievement for a graduate student. The academic conference held in early fall, with professors from other universities, wraps up successfully. On the night of the conference, at the Dangun University team's accommodation, he thinks to himself how plain she seemed at first. When did Sojung grow into someone who could hold her own in debates with professors from other universities? She said she wanted to be a professor. Quite determined, that one. The after-party probably over by now. Maybe he should text her some advice. As he walks past a room, he overhears her voice. Ah, hick, please don't do this, Professor. He freezes. Professor? That's not the kind of thing you expect to hear in a hotel. What kind of jerk gets worked up over a student? Then she screams, please don't touch me. He looks back at the room and thinks, Minute Sojung? You shouldn't leave too strong an impression, that's how universities in South Korea work, he says. A few days ago, in the department office, he notices Kim Min-jun looking worn out, his shirt wrinkled from all-nighters. Curious, he asks what brings him here. Kim's hear about Sojung's thesis, and apparently, the banner planned for it. He teases Kim, wondering if he came just to talk about Sojung. Kim smirks, clearly proud of the student's achievement, and gives him a hard time about his own life choices, success, marriage, dating, even suggesting he try making a move on Sojung after graduation, though she might find his age off-putting. He's half annoyed that Kim was the one who insisted he be Sojung's advisor. Kim quickly waves it off as a joke and urges him to just date someone already. Her round jet black eyes, tightly closed lips, and perfectly straight brows stand out sharply. In a university where hierarchy is as rigid as the military, and male professors often look down on their female peers, Minute Sojung leaves a strong impression. He stands up from their table. "I need a break. I'll be back in a bit." She nods quietly. Okay. He steps outside to smoke and thinks to himself, why did I act like an idiot? She's always been guarded like a fortress. No matter how arrogant he was, she never let herself cry, except that one time. The only time she ever cried in front of him. He looked back at the room and thought, Minute Sojung? He called her name, voice sharp with urgency, and then opened the door. Inside, the head of the department covered her mouth, her muffled screams barely audible as she called for Professor Lee. The woman quickly tried to explain, blaming her drunkenness and claiming Sojung had made the first move, insisting she had only touched her slightly. Before she could finish, Suho's fist connected with her face in a swift, furious punch. The head of department stumbled toward the door, defiantly daring anyone to report her, insisting nothing had happened. Suho's mind burned with anger at the betrayal. Behind him, Sojung trembled, arms wrapped tightly around herself. He pulled her into his arms and whispered her name. She cried through the night, so deeply that he feared she might break under the weight of it all. In the brothel, he watches Sojung lying on the bed, and the memory flashes over him. Kim appears. He asks why Kim's here. Kim says the owner contacted him, he'd been drinking alone, and Kim still had the card he gave last time they ate here. Kim teases him about having plenty of free time, first round of drinks with Sojung, now a second with him. He shrugs off the comment. Kim asks if he's bothered they're drinking together. Suho thinks Kim's overthinking it. He can't make a move on Sojung publicly, that's all there is to it. Kim sits down and snatches the drink Suho was about to take. Then Kim drops a bomb. When Suho left the school, he claimed to join the transition team, but that wasn't true. Sojung got kicked out of the department because of it, and there's more. Suho cuts him off, not in the mood to talk. Kim downs the shot himself and warns that Suho's liked Sojung since then and pleads, don't hurt her. Suho snaps back that Kim's wrong, he's the one protecting Sojung, not him. Kim laughs, calls him a spoiled brat throwing a tantrum, and yells for another bottle. The next day, at the dining table, Suho looks sick. Sojung offers him water. His mother notices immediately and questions him about how much he drank, reminding him that he's going to be a father soon. She asks Sojung if she's craving anything, recalling her own early pregnancy cravings for fruit. Suho slams his hand on the table, frustrated, and insists Sojung isn't pregnant. His mother looks taken aback, and he sighs, thinking how this misunderstanding has been a real hassle, especially with grandfather visiting. Sojung reassures his mother that they're trying hard and asks her to wait for good news. He thinks it's surprising how supportive she sounds, not expecting her to believe they're just a show window couple. His mother suggests herbal medicine to boost Sojung's health, which Suho scoffs at, doubting its relevance in modern times. Before he can argue, Sojung agrees to try it. His mother smiles, encouraging her to eat well and get ready for what's next. He can't help but think he shouldn't have mentioned it in the first place. That afternoon, in the mayor's office of Hyeomyang City, she takes advantage of a rare moment of free time before lunch to bring up the topic. He invites her in, sensing something serious. She shifts the conversation to the pregnancy, reminding him that if he isn't planning to stop it, they should begin preparing today, especially since the upcoming visit to Toulouse is fast approaching. He questions why she's so determined. She opens up, revealing how, since her mother's sudden passing, she's always felt alone. The only family she truly has left are her mother-in-law and his grandfather, and she doesn't want to disappoint them. She lifts his face gently, whispering that she wants a real family with children. She's not afraid of him, just inexperienced. He pulls her close and kisses her. She wonders why he pulls away briefly. Was it because she made a noise? But he assures her it was just a reflex and didn't hurt. Taking his hand, she guides it to her breast, making clear that she's decided, and he shouldn't hesitate either. She kisses him again, confident. He hears her say she's calculated the date and is ovulating now, so tonight is the night. She thinks to herself, I'm starving. What should I eat for dinner? Kim approaches and asks if she's leaving work. She says no, she plans to return after dinner. Kim suggests grabbing dinner together and offers to treat her to her favorite grilled mackerel. She hesitates, then agrees. Suddenly, Suho appears behind her and asks where she's going. She explains she's having dinner with manager Kim Mingjun, taking half a day off tomorrow for herbal medicine, and has a lot to finish today. She already told her mom she'd be late. Kim chimes in, mentioning grilled mackerel and how Sojung loves marinated mackerel. Suho's thoughts twist with a pang of upset. Mackerel, huh? He quickly adds that he's coming too. She turns, surprised. At the restaurant, Kim announces the grilled fish is ready. He points to it and mentions how it reminds him of that spot near their school famous for grilled fish. Sojung smiles, recalling how often they used to go there during their lab days. The fermented soybean stew was unforgettable. She suggests that if they ever have a business trip to Seoul, they should visit again, wondering if the place would remember them. Kim laughs, saying they definitely remember her. After all, they kept insisting on introducing their son to her. Even when she told them she was older, they wouldn't believe it. Suho cuts in, teasing Sojung about never having lunch with him during grad school. She insists she did, just once. His mind puzzles over something. He likes mackerel, but that day she never touched it. She offers the mayor a taste of the grilled fish, praising how well it's cooked here. Kim jokes that she's going to cause trouble for Suho. Calling to the waitress, Kim asks for another bowl of rice for the mayor. Then he teases Sojung, surprised she didn't know her husband can eat mackerel. She's confused until Kim explains that mackerel gives Suho a terrible rash. Sojung tries to mention a time when Suho was with her mother before, but he cuts her off, clearing his throat and insisting they just eat. His throat tightens, and his mind drifts. Was there mackerel in that stew? Last time, he nearly got into big trouble for taking his medicine late. Come to think of it, that was the one meal they had together. He remembered that after the department head's harassment incident, Sojung had no choice but to stay silent for the sake of her future career as a professional. If rumors about the scandal spread throughout the university, even though she wasn't at fault, it would become difficult for her to teach, conduct research, or pursue anything she had worked for. In the worst case, she might never be able to set foot on campus again. He told her to stay away from campus and promised that at dawn he would report the matter to the administration. She questioned the idea of staying away. He warned her that the department head would do everything to pressure and intimidate her, and asked if she thought she could handle that alone. He reassured her that he didn't think the department head would go so far as to show up at her family home, so she didn't need to worry about that. She gripped the cup in her hands tighter. He told her to just stay put and stay strong, that he would take care of everything. In the department head's office, Suho walked in and slammed his hands on the table. He shouted that using the promise of a professor position to demand sexual favors was unforgivable. When she resisted, the head had dragged her into an unmonitored storage room and attempted to assault her. He declared that tomorrow morning he would report everything to the administration and the dean's office. If that didn't work, he vowed to resign and fight the matter to the very end. In short, he told the department head, "You were finished." As soon as morning came, he reported the harassment incident to the university, then headed to Sojung's family home with her. Initially, he planned to drop her off and leave, but her mother, Lee Jungim, insisted he stay. "How can you come all this way and just leave, Professor?" she said. They wouldn't let him go without eating. The two women made sure he sat at the table. Sighing, Lee Jungim explained that all they had was mackerel, but he should please have some. He thought to himself, "Let's just eat. It's not like I'll die right after." He picked up his chopsticks and took a bite. Lee Jungim asked him to take good care of Sojung, even if she had some shortcomings. He denied that. Sojung wasn't lacking. She had recently received recognition for her thesis and was very smart. Sojung chimed in that although the professor said that, he was really strict at university. Her mother replied that a teacher could scold their student if needed, and if she did something wrong, she should be given a proper lesson. He teased Sojung, reminding her of her mother's words. She noticed he sounded more cheerful than usual. He warned her that when they got back, he'd be even stricter. She asked how much stricter he could possibly get. Lee Jungim stood up, worried they were running out of fish, and said she'd have to grill more. He urged her to eat some too. Lee Jungim instructed Sojung to peel the fish for him, and Sojung obeyed. Then she asked her mother if she'd had a health checkup yet, mentioning a letter from the health insurance. Her mother waved it off, saying working in the field every day was hard but her stamina was incredible, so what was the point? Sojung urged her not to ignore any pain and to see a doctor if needed. Lee Jungim replied, "Where would you even get the money?" "Never mind, I'll handle it myself," then walked out. He smiled, commenting on how well Sojung and her mother got along. Sojung agreed, saying they had supported each other through a lot and that her mother had endured much raising her. She started to ask something more, but he cut her off with a gentle warning not to ask things like that now, since her mother was nearby. He asked what she meant by not reporting it to the police. She explained that, for now, she wanted to handle it through the university. He replied that the university would probably prefer to let it slide. She thought to herself how absurd it was to say she didn't want to report it, but this dream wasn't hers alone, it was her mother's dream too. Her mother, who had raised her alone, sweating under the scorching summer sun while picking peppers. If the professor hadn't stepped in for her, everything she endured would have been swept under the rug. She voiced her worry despite it all. He reassured her, reminding her he was her advisor and that as such, it was his responsibility to protect her. He told her to consider everything she wanted to say as heard. At her house, he told her to get some rest and said he'd see her in Seoul before driving off. That day, he ate every last bite of the fish minute Sojung's mother had served, though he had to rush to the hospital later for an injection and was prescribed 2 days' rest. The only thing he felt was relief that he had safely brought her home. He asks about her plans for the herbal clinic visit with her mother the next day and hands her his card, suggesting she use it to buy spring clothes and treat her mother to lunch while in Seoul. She takes the card, teasing that it makes them look like a married couple. He reminds her they've always been family, not a couple. She wonders aloud about what colors would suit her for spring, settling between pink and white. He tries to focus on his busy day ahead, concerned about the budget review and assembly questions. Playfully, she bites him, calling it a vaccine against stress and says she'll watch some drama before joining him later, encouraging him to keep working. Despite his protest, she insists on pink. He finally admits it's the opposite of what he meant, and she laughs, clearly amused by their banter. Sonjung's mother-in-law watches as the doctor checks Sonjung's pulse. Sonjung thinks about the mayor, guessing he's probably wrapping up the budget review and getting ready for lunch by now. The doctor comments on Sonjung's health, noting her body is in excellent condition for conceiving. Her mother-in-law asks if herbal medicine would help further. The doctor explains it's mainly for boosting energy, but Sonjung already has plenty of vitality. Her mother-in-law mentions it's been a year since the marriage and worries her son might be a bit weak. Sonjung quietly reminds herself they just haven't tried enough yet. The doctor recommends something to warm the body for better chances of pregnancy and offers a tea to help the mayor's vitality, though he can't be sure of his exact condition. Excited, her mother-in-law reacts warmly to the suggestion. The doctor gives Sonjung a knowing look, as if aware of all their struggles. He advises that pregnancy happens only when both partners truly desire each other and align their intentions. Sonjung nods, determined to remember that. The doctor then hands her a guide on traditional methods to support conception. That evening, Suho notices his mother arriving earlier than usual. She explains she used the card he gave her to buy some beef and came straight over. She hands him a cup, saying it's tea meant to boost his immunity, brewed like barley tea. Knowing he's been too busy to join her at the clinic, she urges him to drink it regularly for his health. He takes the tea gratefully, but she can't help thinking how to tell him it's also supposed to help with his performance issues. She asks if he's been too busy to exercise like before. He mentions planning to go to the swimming pool this weekend. She reflects that though he said he'd try, it felt like he worked all night yesterday, wondering if he's afraid of intimacy because of his doubts. He changes the subject, commenting on how suddenly hot it's gotten. She hesitates but finally says that Sonjung can't get pregnant on her own, reminding him of that. He stands to leave, telling her to rest well. As he goes, his thoughts shift back to the supplementary budget, where priorities like repairs and emergency expenses are being pushed by local lawmakers. In his room, Suho removes his shirt, mulling over how this year's budget review will take longer than usual, especially since it involves funding recently renovated areas. He recalls a lawmaker's self-serving speech about prioritizing citizens' livelihoods over education funding and how that same lawmaker stormed out before lunch. Noticing a letter on his desk, he picks it up and reads a curious method for conception involving unusual positions. Startled by the door opening, he quickly drops the paper and walks away. Sojung rushes in, snatches the letter, and hides it in a drawer. Suho questions her whereabouts, surprised to find her not in the bathroom as expected. She plays it off, but silently worries if he caught sight of the letter. After confirming he didn't, she feels relieved. His phone rings, and after a brief call about his grandfather, he tells Sojung he needs to leave immediately. She senses his worry and insists on accompanying him despite his protests. Their quiet exchange affirms their bond beyond mere obligation. When I went to the living room, my mother-in-law was hurriedly changing her clothes, preparing to leave. It had been 3 years since my grandfather-in-law had suffered a stroke that left his left side paralyzed. He battled high blood pressure and cardiovascular problems, but surgery wasn't an option given his age. With his condition so fragile, where anything could happen at any moment, all talk of ovulation cycles, pregnancy tips, and even plans for our first night together were put aside. Instead, we headed to Inge. I never imagined that our true first night together would be there. Mrs. Kim clutches her bag a little tighter, that familiar nervousness flickering across her face as she talks about getting anxious every time Inge calls. Grandfather chuckles, brushing off the concern with a light-hearted scold. Just because an old man moves around a little doesn't mean the house has to be alerted. His gaze softens as he looks at Sojung, asking why she would even bother coming all this way. But she steps forward, smiling as she reminds him she's his granddaughter-in-law. Her tone is playful as she offers to quit her job and stay by his side to help him recover faster. Grandfather laughs, clearly touched, but quickly shifts the subject to the baby. He wonders aloud if she has any ultrasound photos yet, probably still too early to know the gender. He calls over Mr. Kim, who brings a small box. Grandfather explains that he's been attending a knitting class, even though most of the other men avoid it, and since she came in person, it's the perfect time to give it to her. Inside the box is a tiny baby shoe, clearly handmade. The yarn is uneven, the flower slightly crooked, but the care behind it is unmistakable. Mr. Kim quietly adds that grandfather worked 3 hours a day on the shoe, refusing to rest even when they urged him to take it easy. Sojung holds it in her hands, heart tightening. She thinks to herself, he can barely control his left side, yet he made this. Suho frowns, asking why grandfather would push himself like that. But she doesn't answer his concern, just smiles and says she hopes the baby's a girl. Grandfather grins and asks if anyone's had a dream about the baby yet. Sojung shakes her head, lying smoothly, but inside she thinks, I thought I was quick-witted, but deceiving family feels so much harder. He reassures her, if no one in the family has a dream, he'll find one from the other elders. The ones here are good at that sort of thing. He tells them to go rest after the long trip. Mrs. Kim offers to stay the night at the facility, wanting to see her father again in the morning. Suho insists that he and Sojung will stay nearby too and visit in the morning before taking his mother home. Sojung agrees, still holding the tiny shoe, feeling the weight of what it means. At the hotel counter, Suho asks for 2 single rooms, his tone firm and polite. The receptionist hesitates for a moment, glancing up at them. Recognition flickers across her face, so it's that couple from the article, she thinks, the show window marriage, figures they'd be traveling together. Before Suho can finish the check-in process, Sojung gently takes his hand and steps forward with a bright smile. 1 room, please. Her voice is casual, affectionate, but deliberate. The receptionist blinks, caught a little off guard. Suho doesn't say anything right away. He looks at their joined hands, then at Sojung, who's clearly not backing down. No one speaks for a beat. Then the receptionist nods and starts processing the room change. The silence between Suho and Sojung hangs in the air, subtle and charged, but she doesn't let go of his hand. In the room, he suggests separate beds for comfort, but she feels guilty, as if hiding something from ailing family. She insists they tell grandfather about the baby soon, before his health declines. He responds quietly to her resolve. She adds she wants to try now, then asks for his coat before heading to shower. He agrees. She freezes, eyes wide, heart skipping. The dim hotel lighting makes it worse, just enough to blur but not enough to hide. The sleek, dark glass wall isn't as opaque as it seemed at first glance. Steam clings to the surface, distorting the image, but his silhouette is still there, clear enough. She jerks her gaze away, cheeks burning. Her hands shoot up to cover her face, but curiosity tugs at her again. She peeks, just for a second, then groans and buries her face in a pillow. Why is it transparent? Who designs a bathroom like this? She tries to think of literally anything else. The sound of running water doesn't help. Just close your eyes. Count backwards. Do not turn around again. Not even a glance, but her head tilts. Just slightly. A knock sounds at the door. Suho opens it, and Sojung wonders who's there. He explains that it's room service, which he ordered while she was showering, and invites them in. They clink their glasses, and he downs his drink quickly. She notes his unusual nervousness, reminding him he's usually composed. He admits the thought of a new family member feels complicated. She senses his worry might stem from added responsibility and reassures him she'll take care of the baby, urging him to focus on his grandfather and mother for now. Taking a sip, she tells him he's always been a strong leader. When she sits on his lap, he notices her pounding heartbeat and asks if she's nervous. She admits it's her first time, and inwardly feels a warmth and tenderness that makes her believe his feelings are genuine, even if it's unspoken. Sunrise bathes her face in light, bright and warm. He suggests she could sleep longer, but she reflects on how, since the show window couple scandal, they've shared a bed, yet this is the first morning they wake up like a real couple. He offers to continue what they started last night, whispering that ovulation calls for regular intimacy. The tickle of his words makes her smile. She mentions how every other day is ideal, given sperm survival. He pulls her close, expressing his hope for a baby, and she echoes the sentiment. His usual sweetness makes her almost believe he truly is her husband. Then he suggests they shower together. In the evening at Hyeomyong City Hall, Suho reflects on Minute Sojung's habit of visiting the columbarium alone on her late mother's birthday. He feels partly responsible for her loss, making it difficult to suggest going with her. Though she affectionately calls their house her family, her mother's sudden death left a deep void that he couldn't fill. Minute Sojung opens up, sharing how after her mother passed, she was always alone and longed for a family. She shows him a picture of a man and woman carrying a baby, her father, who died before she was 2. Despite growing up with a tough mom, she says she never lacked anything. She recalls a night when she was very sick, and her mother carried her 4 kilometers to a city hospital in a rural area where buses ran only 5 times a day. That experience led her to hide her pain afterward. Suho empathizes quietly with her awkward laugh, thinking back to his own struggles after losing his father at 10, feeling isolated, fighting often, and protecting his mother from knowing his troubles. He realizes that Minute Sojung's memories of her mother's love running that long distance resonate deeply with his own experiences. She ends by saying she grew up surrounded by love and is proud of it. He admits he envies her. For once, the conversation feels comfortable, even meaningful. The next morning at Dangun University, the ethics committee convenes from 8 to 10 o'clock. The question on everyone's mind is whether the department head assaulted a female student. The department head admits it happened while he was drunk, blaming impulse control issues and ongoing medication. He presents his medical history, claiming that long-term psychiatric drug use diminishes desire. He even accuses the student of seducing him first, saying she asked if he could give her a professor position in exchange for something. Then, Suho stands up to testify as the victim's academic advisor. He tells a very different story from the department heads. When he arrived after hearing cries for help, the student's underwear had already been removed. Suho presents recorded testimony from the victim and a signed written statement as evidence. The department head counters by calling the female student manipulative, craving attention and power. He insists she flirted with him and changed her story once Suho entered the room. He claims false accusations like these have become common social problems. Suho then plays security footage from a drive, showing the professor forcefully pushing the student into a room despite her protests, her shouts of "Professor, stop! Please," and "Professor Lee," echoing. Outside, the department head dismisses the situation, claiming he is the authority in Korean urban planning and will not be shaken by such accusations. Suho retorts sharply, telling him to leave if he can't face it, adding that even though he's old, he should age with grace and calls him a crazy bastard. He dials Sojung's number, thinking the ethics committee results should come out soon, either tomorrow or the day after. The department head will probably start offering settlements to Sojung, maybe he already has. She answers, and when he asks if the department head has tried contacting her, she says she's unsure if it was him, but she did get some calls from a Seoul number. He warns her the department head will likely try to coerce her into settling once the results are out. She asks if she can return to the university if she doesn't settle. He warns it would be uncomfortable. While the department head remains in charge, she won't be able to secure a professorship in urban planning anywhere. He thinks about how the weak have to lower themselves to survive and sometimes make unwanted choices. She asks what she should do. For some reason, this time feels different to him. He tells her not to settle, he won't let the department head get away with it. She's surprised, calling out the department head's name. Suddenly, Lee Jung-gim interrupts, urging her to move quickly since she's still in work clothes. She agrees and hurries off. Back on the phone, he asks if she's really in work clothes, and she confirms. He playfully asks her to send a photo to watch something fun together. She agrees and sends a picture. He thinks there must be people around since she's managing okay and smiles at her photo. 2 days later, Suho questions the 1-year suspension. The other replies it was a major decision, dismissing the professor mid-semester would spark too much curiosity and damage the school's reputation, hurting the female student as well. Suho argues the punishment is too light, especially since the victim hasn't settled and wants justice. He questions how a criminal can be allowed back in the classroom. The department head suddenly enters, mocking Suho as the professor on the side of justice. Suho notes he seems pleased with the suspension. The department head smirks, saying he's thinking of traveling the world but promises he'll be back in a year, and won't stay silent then. He reflects bitterly on how the department head used money and influence to cover up the crime after his father's death. The way South Korea operates, money over morals, power over justice, fills him with disgust. Facing such a corrupt man makes it feel like villainy has become the norm. Though the department head might think he's won, he's convinced that downfall is inevitable. He wonders what expression the man will wear when that happens. He hadn't intended to push this far, but now he sees he has no other choice. Sojung kneels in front of the columbarium niche, placing her hand gently on the cool surface. "Mom, I'm here," she murmurs softly, her voice barely above a whisper. The silence around her feels heavier than usual today. Her eyes fall on the new artificial flowers tucked neatly into the small vase beside the urn. She frowns slightly. "Ooh? These weren't here before, but no one else is supposed to visit." A quiet wind brushes past her, stirring her thoughts. Mom never had anyone else, grew up alone in an orphanage, not even knowing her real birthday or age. She never talked about it much, but I know, if she had just one person on her side back then, if she had a family to protect her, maybe she wouldn't have had to live her whole life bowing to a cruel mother-in-law, scrubbing floors until her hands cracked. Sojung draws a long breath and smiles faintly. "I missed you, Mom. Have you been well?" Her eyes grow misty. "Things have been going well with the professor lately. I've been so busy, I haven't visited as often as I should." "I'm sorry." Her voice wavers, and she sits back on her heels, her thoughts drifting. "We were so happy, weren't we? Just for a while, back then. That trip to Sokcho. I thought it was just a free hotel voucher the mayor gave me because he didn't need it. But later I found out, it was more than that." He arranged that trip so I could get away, so the department head wouldn't reach me before his suspension. If not for that trip, maybe you would have never gotten to experience a real vacation before you passed. That one little memory, he gave us that. She glances at the artificial flowers again, a lump forming in her throat. And then there's this. After everything you endured, all the years bent over someone else's flaws, invisible to the world. Even in death, you were placed on the lowest level of the columbarium, close to the ground, where strangers' feet pass by without looking. The cheapest spot. I hated seeing you there. It felt so wrong. Her fingertips brushed the edge of the marble plaque, tenderly. But right after I got married, the mayor, he didn't even say anything. Quietly, he moved you to the most expensive position, at eye level, where no one walks past with muddy shoes, where the sun hits just right, as if to say, you deserve better. A tear slips down her cheek, but she doesn't wipe it away. Thank you, Mayor, she whispers. Then, to the woman whose strength shaped her entire life, she says more quietly, I'll keep living well, Mom. For you. For me. For the baby, too. She stays there a moment longer, watching the sky shift to soft pinks and golds. It's quiet. Peaceful. The memory drifts in gently, like sunlight through dust. She sees her mother again, seated on the worn mat in their old apartment, folding laundry with her usual quiet focus. Sojung, if you receive something, you have to return it in kind. You can't just take without giving back. At the time, she had rolled her eyes and waved it off. Mom, geez, I said it was something I got for free. And besides, the professor's rich, it's fine. My classmates even said his shoes cost millions of won. But her mother didn't laugh or brush it off the way she'd hoped. It might be a small amount to them, her mom had said, folding another shirt with care, but it's a lot to us. You have to remember that, okay? Who else but you, Mom, would nag me like that? The thought drifts in with a half smile, a sting of warmth beneath her eyes. I'm really doing my best, she murmurs, voice barely above a whisper. The mayor keeps scolding me not to meddle, but he helped me with my work before too, so don't worry about me, Mom. Outside on a bench, Sojung answers the phone, her voice quiet and steady. She listens, nodding slightly, her gaze lowering. A small smile forms, but it fades as she speaks again, more gently this time. There's a pause, then she assures him, her tone light but final. She ends the call and exhales, letting the silence settle around her, eyes fixed on the distance. At the rural home, Sojung steps through the gate and calls out. Her grandmother's sharp voice snaps from inside, cutting through the quiet with the same bite it always had. Sojung pauses, but doesn't flinch, just a faint sigh as she takes in the tiny, worn-down house. Her eyes drift across the cramped space, the same walls that once held 2 lives. Now, it feels even smaller, almost unreal that she and her mother fit a whole life here. She sits alone, the air thick with memory. A soft melody escapes her lips, hesitant at first, then fuller, a lullaby once sung to her, now gently returned to the silence. The song ends on a whisper. She presses her face into her hands. Under the faded roof of her childhood, grief washes over her in waves until sleep takes her, curled up in the corner, her quiet sobs finally fading. At the Hyeomyung City Hall cafeteria, the air buzzes with lunchtime chatter. Sojung sits down, eyeing the tray in front of her, confused. Her colleague shares the sentiment, raising an eyebrow at the day's questionable menu. Sojung forces a small laugh, her hunger overriding taste. She hadn't eaten since yesterday's lunch. At the table, conversations float around budget meetings and local restaurants. One colleague groans about missing a spot due to delays, another mentions the long lines even when arriving early. Sojung perks up, feeling left out as she realizes she might be the only one who hasn't tried the place. Mr. Sung Jae offers a hidden gem with no wait time, piquing everyone's interest. Across the table, Chief Kim Min-jun turns his attention to her, asking gently about her visit to her mother's resting place. She's surprised he remembered. He assures her, with soft concern, that of course he knew, it's a routine she's kept every year. His voice lowers, laced with a kind of sympathy that weighs a bit too heavy. He places a small cup of fruit on her tray, a quiet gesture. But instead of comfort, it makes her feel self-conscious, as if accepting it would mean accepting more than just fruit. She gives a practiced smile, repeating words that have carried her through darker days: the living must keep living. He catches it, recognizing the phrase. She nods, almost wistfully. It was something he once said, a long time ago, back when their roles were less defined and the world felt a little lighter. The cafeteria buzz-dims noticeably when the mayor walks in. Sojung pauses mid-bite, eyes flicking up. His expression is stern, maybe a result of butting heads with the local council. She quietly returns to her food, not expecting more, but then, to her surprise and everyone else's, he heads straight toward their table. A hush falls as he pulls out a chair and sits down. All eyes widen in unison. Even Sojung stares. Wasn't he supposed to eat with the department heads? He acknowledges the group, his tone even, commenting on the hard work they all put into preparing the materials. The chief responds first, thanking him, followed by a few grumbles about the unfairness of it all, effort wasted, bad lunch as the cherry on top. Sojung watches the quiet tension around the table. The others clearly find him intimidating, their postures stiff, eyes on their trays. She gets it, he's strict, especially in public. Even she finds herself tensing up around him in moments like this. A notification buzzes. She checks her phone under the table. A message from Suho: see me after the meal. She blinks. You're sitting right here, she thinks. Why not just say it out loud? Sojung knocks and enters. The mayor closes the door behind her and pulls her into a close embrace, catching her off guard. She calls out his name, surprised by his sudden closeness. He grips her waist firmly, his voice low and serious as he questions why she didn't tell him about her visit. She tries to explain that he seemed preoccupied with the hearing. His gaze sharpens, accusing her silently for sharing laughter with Chief Kim but avoiding him. She steps back, confused by his mood, thinking to herself why he always becomes like this. She insists there's nothing between her and Chief Kim, dismissing his doubts. Removing his blazer and loosening his tie, he steps nearer, hinting that timing is crucial now. She protests the location, clearly uncomfortable in his office, but he insists there aren't many opportunities left. He gestures toward the couch. She hesitates, blushing, begging him to stop. He kneels and gently urges her to relax, but the tension hangs in the air. Sojung protests, clearly uncomfortable with the location. Suho insists, urging her to relax, reminding her it's all for their shared future. He adds, softly, that she'll need to return to work soon and he's not rushing just to hurry things along alone. Inwardly, he knows that if he doesn't do this now, he won't be able to focus on anything else. She pleads for him to slow down, worried about making noise in the mayor's office. Suho smirks and teases her, asking if she has a more affectionate way to call him. Just as things heat up, a voice calls from outside the door. Someone mentions reporter Jong Taegu hanging around City Hall again. They complain about how he's been digging for dirt on the mayor, probably sniffing around the supplementary budget drama and siding with local council members. Sojung moans softly, but Suho quickly covers her mouth to keep things quiet. He's clearly trying to keep this moment hidden. The voice outside asks if the rumors about the mayor's marriage scandal have died down, hoping the mayor is different at home, feeling sorry for Secretary Minute. Suho pushes harder, making Sojung cry out. The voice pauses, confused by the noise. Leaning in, Suho whispers that no couple avoids eye contact like they just did. He asks if she wants him to show the caller what's really going on. She shoots back, shocked, calling him crazy. People nearby glance nervously, giving them space. Sojung warns that if anyone found out what they're doing in the mayor's office, it'd be a scandal. He smirks and asks if he's really as cold as people say. She scoffs but thinks to herself that when he's like this, he's definitely anything but cold. He glanced at his watch, already 5 minutes past his scheduled return. Minute Sojung, he thought, don't let a single drop go to waste. Handle everything carefully during ovulation. No unnecessary outings. She caught his silent warning, thinking, you don't want the revised plan to fail. You want this to work perfectly on the first try, that's why you're so serious about it. She nodded silently and replied, I understand. I'll follow your lead. Evening at Suho's residence, the atmosphere was warm yet filled with subtle care. Sojung's mother-in-law, trying to fill the quiet moments, said she had made japchae while Sojung was away yesterday. She hoped Sojung would taste it and give her honest feedback, whether it was savory enough or if the seasoning was too strong. Hearing Sojung's chatter again was something she had missed. Sojung smiled warmly, praising the dish as delicious. The mother-in-law then brought up the visit to her mother-in-law's columbarium, gently reminding Sojung that although it wasn't a grave, being there was what mattered. When Sojung asked if she had been there recently, the mother-in-law admitted she had, after asking Suho for the location. She confessed she'd been feeling guilty for not properly greeting her after all this time. The conversation shifted to the flowers Sojung had left. The mother-in-law was pleased she had chosen them carefully and asked if they were okay. Sojung's mind flickered with the thought that she had been the only one visiting her mother, that it had always been just her. The mother-in-law's tone softened as she suggested moving the urn to a quieter, better place nearby. She worried about Sojung traveling so far while pregnant and offered to take over visits, cleaning, and freshening the flowers. Sojung appreciated the offer but wanted to think about it first, remembering the mayor had recently helped move her mother to a new spot with plenty of time left on the contract. The mother-in-law understood and told Sojung to take her time. Then, noticing Suho's absence, she asked why he was late. Sojung explained he was preparing for an overseas trip and would be home late. The mother-in-law urged her to make sure Suho drank the energizing tea she had prepared when he returned. Sojung smiled at the thought of the tea giving him even more strength. The mother-in-law sighed, expressing a bit of regret about having such a weak son, worried it might disappoint Sojung. But Sojung defended him gently, assuring her he wasn't weak at all. Curious, the mother-in-law asked if Sojung was craving anything. Without hesitation, Sojung said she wanted some fatty meat. The mother-in-law brightened and went to grill pork belly from the fridge. As Sojung watched her mother-in-law move around the kitchen, she thought to herself how this woman was no longer just her mother-in-law, she had become like a real mother to her. The day of the trip to France arrived, and Sojung found herself standing beneath the towering aircraft, marveling at its size. The bustling airport surrounded her with its usual chaos, filled with the chatter and laughter of her university classmates and colleagues. They teased and joked with one another, their playful banter filling the air, though she couldn't help but feel a pang of disappointment at missing out on exploring the duty-free shops. Amid the lively atmosphere, her eyes caught sight of the mayor approaching from a distance. Despite the occasion, his expression was tense, almost burdened. It struck her as odd, why would someone traveling so far appear so troubled? The thought unsettled her just as they prepared to embark on their journey. On the plane, Sojung glanced around, surprised not to see the usual person in charge sitting with the mayor. When he settled beside her, she noticed how tight the space felt, clearly a snug fit for someone his tall stature. Just then, the flight attendant approached, confirming Suho's identity and offering upgrades to business class for both of them. Suho declined, wary of appearing to seek special treatment, but encouraged Sojung to accept if she wanted. Meanwhile, her colleagues eagerly eyed the offer, teasing about the perks like upgraded meals. Sojung smiled, deciding to stay put beside the mayor, gently insisting the others enjoy the more comfortable seats ahead. The group moved quickly, bustling around with a mix of excitement and camaraderie as the plane prepared for takeoff. Looking out the window, Sojung marveled at the clouds below, feeling the surreal thrill of being so high above the ground. Suho, seated beside her, broke the silence, reminding her to rest in a comfortable spot. She teased him lightly, pointing out that it felt strange since he was right there with her. He lowered his voice and confessed his worry about her being in the delicate implantation stage, hesitant about the risk of flying. Sojung asked him to keep his voice down, not wanting anyone nearby to overhear. Then, in a playful exchange, he pulled out a book and pen, silently asking if she'd chosen that seat just to make Kim Minjun feel more at ease. She caught on quickly, writing back that she simply wanted to sit next to him as his assistant and wife, and wondered if that was really what he wanted to talk about on the plane. He countered, questioning if that meant she didn't want to anymore. Suddenly shy, Sojung passed the book back and announced she was going to take a nap. Curious about adjusting her seat, she asked him how to recline it. Suho told her only the flight attendants could do that, which surprised her. She had assumed he'd know. Laughing at her innocence, he teased gently, prompting her to protest she wasn't an idiot. In that moment, both their thoughts seemed to align. Without hesitation, he drew her close and kissed her. Unlike any kiss before, it wasn't urgent or breathless, but calm and tender, sending a thrilling rush through her heart unlike anything she'd felt. Evening in the dimly lit Toulouse hotel room, Sojung fumbled awkwardly with the zipper of her dress, her hair tangled in it. Suho watched with a teasing smile. When she asked for help, he calmly told her to lift her hair and stepped in to carefully free the snag. Then, his tone shifted as he brought up something she hadn't answered on the plane. His question hung between them, heavy and uncertain. Did she still want to be with him now that the ovulation period was over? Sojung hesitated, her own feelings tangled in the confusion. Without waiting for a clear answer, Suho gently fastened a delicate necklace around her neck, an unexpected gift he'd bought earlier at the airport. The gesture softened the moment, but when she asked again if he truly wanted to be with her beyond the timing, his voice revealed his own doubts. He complimented her quietly, calling her beautiful, but inside, Sojung wondered if this was all some teasing game. If it was, she felt the sting of sadness creeping in beneath the surface. Evening at the banquet hall, the atmosphere buzzed with excitement and anticipation. Jean Pavard, the mayor of Toulouse, took the podium first, his voice steady and hopeful as he spoke about the bright future for Hyomai, a city of education and industry in Korea. He emphasized the strong bond between their sister cities, promising Toulouse's generous sharing of knowledge and expertise to support that growth. Next, Suho stepped forward, his tone respectful and appreciative. He praised Toulouse for its rich history and its unique harmony of culture and science. His words carried gratitude for the warm hospitality they had received. As the speeches ended, Suho raised his glass, inviting everyone to join in a celebratory toast to friendship and shared success. The room echoed with clinks of glasses and heartfelt smiles, a moment of unity bridging two distant cities. Sojung raised her glass with Michelle, who smiled warmly but leaned in with genuine curiosity. She asked about the differences between Korean and French wedding customs and what inspired their marriage. Sojung hesitated for a moment, but Suho quickly stepped in, recounting how they first met in college, him as a professor, her a student. Michelle's eyes widened, teasing about how Suho must have been quite the popular professor. Pavard playfully shot a jealous glance at Michelle, causing laughter around the table. Encouraged, Suho continued, saying that at first Sojung was just one of his students, but over time he noticed how much they shared, despite their different tastes. Sojung marveled silently at how effortlessly he wove the story, without hesitation. When Michelle asked if their tastes really matched, Suho smiled and admitted they didn't, but through Sojung, he saw another side of himself, like a version of his life he hadn't known before. The room filled with a warm, understanding silence as the story settled between them. Suho continued, his voice calm but sincere, saying that the idea of someone else being close to Sojung made him uneasy, that tying her to him felt like the only way to find peace of mind. Then, smoothly turning the conversation, he asked Pavard and Michelle why they hadn't married, despite expecting a child. Pavard responded with a gentle smile, explaining France's Pax system, a legal domestic partnership that offered the same rights as marriage, and how many children in France were born to unmarried but committed couples. Michelle, feigning offense, teased him for his clinical explanation, especially after Suho's romantic words. Pavard laughed and quickly backpedaled, saying they just hadn't had the chance to hold a celebration worthy of Michelle. It had to be memorable enough to impress her refined taste. Michelle sighed, cradling her baby bump and muttered about feeling heavy, but Pavard leaned in with a loving gaze, saying that to him, she was more beautiful than ever. The two couples shared a soft, understanding moment in the warm light of the banquet hall. Outside, the wind had picked up, carrying a chill through the quiet courtyard. Michelle gently touched Sojung's arm, her smile soft. She mentioned she was starting her maternity leave and wouldn't be around for the final send-off. Her tone was warm, sincere, a quiet farewell. Sojung wished her a safe, healthy delivery, her breath visible in the cold air. Just then, a coat settled on her shoulders, heavy, warm, familiar. She turned slightly, surprised to see Manager Kim behind her. His expression was as composed as always, but the gesture was thoughtful. He spoke with simple concern, suggesting she wait in the car where it was warmer. Sojung glanced back at the building, where Suho and Pavard were still deep in conversation. Michelle gave a light-hearted sigh, noting the men were taking too long, and made her way to the car, her footsteps echoing in the quiet night. Sojung stood there a moment longer, coat snug around her, watching her breath rise and disappear into the cold Toulouse evening. Inside the car, the warmth of the heated seats contrasted the tension hanging in the air. Sojung glanced at Manager Kim, gently scolding him for taking off his jacket in front of others. He downplayed it. There weren't many people around, just Mayor Jean's partner, and he wore the coat often regardless of the weather. His voice was calm but laced with concern, offering to arrange a separate room if she felt uncomfortable sharing with Suho. She paused, caught off guard. The suggestion was considerate but misplaced. Before she could fully respond, Suho opened the car door and stepped inside. His eyes immediately landed on the jacket draped over her shoulders. His tone was clipped, direct. He told her to take it off. Kim tried to explain, but Suho was already removing his own jacket. Wordlessly, Sojung handed back the one she'd been given and accepted her husband's. The tension thickened. She forced a smile and tried to ease the atmosphere, assuring Suho she wasn't cold anymore. He didn't budge. Instead, he gently wrapped his coat around her and told her to keep it on, whether she needed it or not. "All right," she said quietly, sensing the storm behind his steady gaze. As the car began to move, Kim sat back in silence, his expression unreadable, though a quiet sadness flickered across his face. Sojung stared out the window, unease curling in her chest. The official schedule in France began in earnest the next day. Without reporters tailing every step, the atmosphere was noticeably more relaxed. Sojung found herself speaking more comfortably with officials and staff involved in the event. There was room to breathe, to observe. Toulouse lived up to its name as a university city, youthful energy filled the streets, and young couples were everywhere, strolling arm in arm or laughing over coffee. It felt vibrant and alive in a way that stood in sharp contrast to what she was used to. In Hyomayang City, students were no less ambitious, but their days were often consumed by endless studying and side jobs squeezed into short breaks. Convenience and affordability made it a practical place to live, yet their lives carried a heavier, more restrained energy, a quiet pressure that came from constantly preparing for a future they weren't even sure would come. No wonder the term N generation was used so often, a name for young people with no clear end in sight, no job, no home, no marriage. Just motion, without certainty. Here in Toulouse, that weight didn't seem quite as heavy. Sojung accepts the coffee from Manager Kim with a small smile. His voice is calm, but there's something almost wistful in the way he asks whether it's the foreign atmosphere or the reality of Toulouse that's stirring her thoughts. She brushes it off playfully, calling out his professor-like tone, always turning a simple moment into a philosophical question. His response pulls them briefly into the past, back to their university lab days. The mention of it makes her laugh, not from romance, but exhaustion. Those days were all reports, sleepless nights, and deadlines. In her heart, if anything could have bloomed between them, it would have been a shared sense of survival, the camaraderie of two people pushing through the same storm. Nothing more. She's still thinking that when Suho walks up and hands a coffee, not to her, but to Jong-hyun. The energy shifts subtly. Jong-hyun lights up, surprised and grateful. Sung-jae whines in mock protest about being left out, but Jong-hyun simply grins and wishes everyone a productive day. The lightness in her voice lingers, but Sojung quietly notices Suho didn't bring her a coffee. The group gathers near the city hall, their free time coming to an end as the tour guide calls them toward the bus. Just then, the guide pauses and points out a wedding in progress, a small crowd gathered, soft music playing, and a couple exchanging vows under the crisp European sky. Mayor Pavard stands nearby, a ceremonial presence. Everyone's attention shifts to the scene. The guide explains that in France, the first step to getting married is a civil ceremony at City Hall. It's not about grand declarations or tradition-bound rituals, it's a legal formality. Marriage here doesn't carry the same societal weight it does in some countries. Cohabitation is just as recognized. Still, the couple must post their intent publicly for 15 days to allow for objections before taking vows in front of the mayor. Jong-hyun leans in, intrigued. A wedding at City Hall? So simple. But the guide adds that it's just the beginning. After the formalities, the real celebration begins. A venue changes, dancing, food, laughter stretching long into the night. A whole day of joy. Sojung watches quietly. The sight is modest yet moving, nothing extravagant, but deeply heartfelt. As the couple exchanges rings, she finds herself wondering what it must feel like. Not just to sign papers, but to be celebrated, truly celebrated, in the presence of people who matter. A thought lingers in her chest, wordless but warm. It's such a beautiful scene. Under the dim hotel light, the air hangs heavy with the weight of everything unspoken. The knock interrupts the quiet. Suho doesn't hesitate, he already knows. Kim Min-jun stands in the hallway, trying to look composed but failing to hide the undercurrent of something personal. The exchange is sharp, thinly veiled. One man defending what is claimed, the other pressing where it hurts, even if he won't say why. The marriage, its boundaries, its rules, its truths, hangs between them like a test neither one is willing to fail. Sojung steps in, steady, knowing exactly how fragile the moment is. She draws the line with gentle precision, asking one to leave and silently calming the other. The door closes, and the room suddenly feels smaller. Suho's words spill, edged with jealousy and something deeper. Not just irritation, fear. Fear of being second in her heart. Fear that this whole arrangement, no matter how official, might not be enough. She denies it, softly. But even that's not enough for him. The past bubbles up, words from before the wedding, things she never heard but he never forgot. And then, finally, she cuts through it all. Clear, unflinching. A truth only he needs to hear. The tension shifts, no longer about others or contracts or appearances. She crosses the distance between them without hesitation, and this time, there's no pretense left. Her touch says what her words haven't. Her kiss seals it. Not obligation, not duty, not even longing. This is a choice. And tonight, it's only his. If you're eager for the next chapter, drop a comment expressing your interest in a part 3. Don't forget to subscribe and ensure to hit the notification bell to stay updated. Until next time.